iPhones, new Apple Watches, new AirPods, and so much more. We got so many refresh products this year at this annual September event, and I'm going to go into an in-depth analysis of the 5 new Apple products that came out in the same order that Apple went through them. I'm Alex Hahn from Alex Explained, and this is a recap of the 2024 Glowtime event from Apple. So, where should we start? Some like to start with the good news, some like to start with the bad news, but I'll choose to go with the bad news first. To explain without criticizing Apple too much, we were basically cheated out of 4 products that were supposed to come out, but in the end just didn't. The first of these products is the beloved $799 Apple Watch Ultra 3. To be honest, we didn't have that many rumors about this Apple Watch in particular, except that it might get a new black color and some additional health features. Apple did mention the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and watchOS 11 in the presentation for a couple minutes though, and at first I thought I was in the 2023 event. It is a pretty disappointing move on Apple's part though, because now there are features that the base model Series 10 has that the most rugged Apple Watch Ultra will not even have this year, such as the wide-angled OLED. More on that later. Even though it's missing out on some features, it does get the biggest feature on the Series 10, which is sleep apnea detection, along with the Series 9 also getting this feature. The Ultra 2 is also getting a black titanium color, brand new, like the rumored Ultra 3 was going to have, so I guess you got a little bit of a refresh. The same conditions apply for AirPods Pro 3, where the Pro 2 got a few new features, but there weren't enough to make a new product in itself. Some of these features were hearing protection, a hearing test to see if you needed hearing aids, and a hearing aid feature that is software enabled, which I gotta admit is pretty impressive. The third of these products is another Apple Watch, the SE3. Along with the Ultra, there weren't that many leaks for the SE3, except for that it might get a new plastic body, bringing us back to the iPhone 5C days. This would lower the price to the lowest ever on an Apple Watch, but it just didn't happen. Maybe next time. You will notice a pattern with all these products, as most of them didn't get many rumors. The fourth product also sort of follows this pattern, as the rumors AirPods Lite or AirPods SE, whatever, also did not come out. These were rumored to start at $99 and keep the design of the AirPods 3, but leave out the new features of the AirPods 4. Now, we can finally start on the good news. Let's start off with the all-new Apple Watch Series 10. On this 10th anniversary of the Apple Watch, we got a new thin design and a larger display. In fact, let's start with that, the display. On the Apple Watch Series 10, we now have 30% more screen real estate than in the previous watches, with 46 and 42mm options instead of the previous 41 and 45mm options, which is not the rumored 45 and 49mm options we would have had according to the rumors. This is probably a good thing though, as all the people with smaller wrists can still wear an Apple Watch fit for them. The screen now has a wider aspect ratio, with different looking side rails to make it appear more glossy and less matte than before, in a color called jet black. Speaking of wide, Apple Ultra introduced something called a wide angle display, which allows you to view your watch at more angles with the same quality, up to 40% brighter viewed at an angle, quoted from Apple. The Series 10 also has better battery efficiency to allow it to be refreshed once per second instead of once per minute when the always-on display is activated. But quite possibly, very interestingly, the most anticipated thing about this new Apple Watch is the thinner body at 9.7 millimeters. This thinner body contributed to a different looking speaker that looks much like the speakers of the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which are speakers that can finally play media straight from the device. Apple also changed many other internals to accommodate this new thinner design, including better charging with 80% in just 30 minutes. Another update to the body is the material, as for the first time ever, just like the Ultra, titanium is coming to a more expensive version of Series 10, replacing stainless steel. The new chip in the Apple Watch, the S10 SIP, allows for crisper voice isolation and calls, and more. All of this has the new watchOS 11 features, like the new Translate app, the Vitals app, and a better Smart Stack. It also introduces a new Depth app, which automatically detects water metrics when you become submerged, along with the Tides app to show you the tide level throughout the day. It also gets a paddle logger app, which is like a map in the water. The best part of this new Apple Watch, though, is definitely the sleep apnea detection, a rumored feature for quite some time now. With over 1 billion victims of sleep apnea, the watch tracks your breathing disturbances to estimate if you have sleep apnea or not, which is probably one of the most important and requested features to land on this new Apple Watch, and people are getting really hyped. I mean, when they spend a fifth of the time talking about it, you know this has to be a great new feature. We also didn't get the much anticipated redesign on the 10th anniversary of the Apple Watch or the different magnetic band mechanism rumors pointed towards. Many of these new features are very minor, but when all these minor features stack up, it makes a big leap from last year. This new Apple Watch starts at $399, like the Apple Watch Series 9 did last year. Next up, AirPods, specifically the AirPods 4 and the refreshed AirPods Max. Let's start with the AirPods 4. To begin, you can now press on the stems of the AirPods 4 to play or pause your media. Along with that, the design is changing a bit to fit in more people's ears, but that probably also means that some other people's ears won't fit in the new AirPods. And of course, these new AirPods are finally getting USB Type-C. Thank you, Europe. Thank you. Along with USB-C, just like the rumors pointed out, the AirPods 4 can charge on the Apple Watch charger. Also, built into this case, AirPods 4 have a speaker for Find My, just like the Pros did last year. The headlining feature of these AirPods, though, are that they are finally getting noise cancellation, but not in the way the leak suggested. The reasoning is the most Apple thing ever. You have to pay $50 extra, which puts the model with noise cancellation at $179, bumping you up higher and higher up the Apple ladder. But on all this, there is a huge positive, which is that AirPods 4 start at just $129, which is $40 less than AirPods 3 started at last year. This is like getting AirPods 3 at $40 less than last year. Also, by paying the extra 50, you get transparency mode, conversational awareness, and adaptive audio for all under $200, which I gotta admit is pretty crazy for just $10 more than last year's AirPods 3. Paired with great audio playback time and a much smaller case, this is probably one of the biggest upgrades we have ever gotten to the base model. And the differences between the base model and the Pro model are now becoming slimmer and slimmer. Moving on to AirPods Max, which haven't gotten a refresh since 2020. 4 years. 4 years since these first came out. Let's hope that Apple's got some pretty big upgrades in store for our new AirPods Max. And we get less than a minute talking about them. Just like the leak suggested, the AirPods Max, which haven't been updated in 4 years, just get new colors and USB Type-C. Nope, not even the H2 chip that the base model $129 AirPods 4 have, or a change of that stupid little case that even Apple knows is pretty stupid. Okay, let's finally cut to the chase. You know them, you love them. Here's the brand new iPhone 16 lineup. Even though we call this event Apple's annual September event, the public pretty much knows this as Apple's annual iPhone event. We're already in the 16th generation of the iPhone, and we have a lot to cover. To start, with the iPhone 16 and iPhone 16 Plus this year, we are getting new colors. Yes, new colors are what Apple decided to share with us first about these new phones. There is ultramarine, which is like a dark blue, teal, which is more green than anything else, pink, white, and black. Immediately, you will notice the colors are more saturated than the iPhone 15's pastel colors last year, which I think will be a huge hit with consumers, as people weren't too happy with the iPhone 15 selection of colors. Also, a random thought, why does the wallpaper of the 16 look so much like the wallpaper of the 14 Pro? The camera of the 16 is what they call a fusion camera, a camera that takes many different photos and uses computational photography to merge those different photos together to create the final result, which has a sufficient amount of light and good image quality. But hey, Let's be real, this is just a marketing strategy. I mean, the iPhone 15 had this too. Apple also briefly mentioned this, but the aperture of the iPhone 16's ultra-wide camera became f2.2 instead of the 15's f2.4, which means it can capture 2.6 times more light in low light conditions, or so quoted by Apple. This means that macro photography is finally arriving to the base model, a feature that was exclusive to the Pro in previous years. Also, the camera design has changed to a vertical orientation, kind of like the iPhone 10. This is to help capture spatial photos and video, which you can relive for $3,500 on the Apple Vision Pro. But to be honest, you already have to buy a new iPhone. You already have to spend $3,500. Why would you not just go on and buy the Pro iPhone for $200 more? On the topic of design, Apple is bringing a new thermal design to the iPhone 16 to reduce heat during your hardcore gaming sessions, a complaint that many users filed to Apple in the iPhone 15. The design on the iPhone 16 has changed quite a bit, with the customizable action button we got on last year's Pro models and a brand new camera control, which was thought in rumors to be called the capture button. I think it's fascinating that Apple decided to bring this to the base model, because usually they leave their new features exclusive to the Pro, like the action button that debuted on the iPhone 15 Pro. To be honest, it's actually a lot more exciting than it was thought in the rumors. As a press, we'll launch the camera app, a press in the camera will take a photo, a long press in the camera will take a video, and a light tap in the camera leads to adjustable settings such as zoom. A light double tap allows you to bring up a cool looking selection of UI of adjustable things such as the zoom, exposure, focus, and more. You can then choose which setting you want to change. To be honest, I would probably use the camera control to adjust the styles, as you can now change it even before taking the photo. Some styles include vivid, dramatic, noir, warm, cool, and more. You can then even alter that style to make it have more contrast or even more bright. It is basically color grading in real time. Mentioning real time, you can adjust video settings real time with the camera control, so you don't have to edit it later. I'm not so sure if the camera control is a gimmick or good yet, but hey, it's at least interesting. The best part of the camera control, though, is the fact that you can just tap and hold and then point the camera at an object, and it'll instantly search and identify it. Kind of like search to circle to search on the Pixels and Galaxies, but better. We will get this feature later this year when all the Apple Intelligence features roll out. You know what? This is a good segue into Apple Intelligence itself, as all of this is powered by the A18 chip, which jumped two generations ahead, skipping the A17. Just like the A17 Pro last year in the iPhone 15 Pro. The A18 runs on a 3 nanometer process and has ray tracing. This enables AAA games that were previously only available on the 15 Pro, along with new Wi-Fi 7 instead of the previous 6E. But to be honest, not even that many people will have a Wi-Fi 7 router, so that's definitely one of the more minor changes. Obviously, the Pro model gets these features too. The best part of A18 though is the fact that it has 8 gigabytes of RAM, which means it can run those amazing Apple Intelligence features announced at WWDC. This means that we get writing tools, generative models, a smarter Siri, and so much more for the cheapest price available, or that is until whatever SE4 comes out in 2025. This chip is also said to be more efficient and easier on the battery life, which is great. These start at $799 and $899, but they are still stuck at 60 Hz, which I think is the most expensive phone in 2024 to still have a 60 Hz display. To the average customer, this won't matter, but it is pretty disappointing, considering that you have $200 phones that have 90 or 120 Hz displays. I mean, the $800 iPhone is still locked at a 60 Hz display? Come on, Apple. Moving on to the Pro models, where the screen size is the largest ever on an iPhone. The Pro has a 6.3-inch display, and the Pro Max has a 6.9-inch display. This is mostly thanks to the ultra-thin bezels, which are the thinnest borders ever on an Apple product. Of course, the most controversial thing about the iPhone 16 Pro launch is the new color, Desert Titanium. I'm gonna say this is one of the more interesting colors on the iPhone. I mean, it certainly didn't look as bad as the dark brown color that Sonny Dixon posted on X, but it definitely doesn't look like the gold thought from the renders. It looks quite more muted than any leaks and renders, and I seriously wish it could look more like the gold titanium color of the Apple Watch 10. To be honest, it looks a lot like the gold color that we previously had on the iPhone 14 Pro. Powering all of this is the A18 Pro chip, which Apple says allows for 15% better performance on Apple Intelligence. Of course, then we get the usual performance and efficiency boost over last year, along with the faster USB 3 speeds and better ray tracing. But then again, because of the bigger size and efficiency improvements, Apple is quoting that the Pro Max will have the longest battery life ever on an iPhone at 33 hours, or so Apple says. We also get better charging with 25 watts this year for MagSafe. To pair with a better battery, we have an audio upgrade for the first time in a long time. We now have 4 microphones instead of the 2 we had in the iPhone 15 Pro last year. This means that these get spatial audio capture, which you can listen to on the Vision Pro or Airpods. These new microphones also bring audio mix, a feature where you can isolate one sound in one scenario and another sound in another scenario. Onto the camera, which are usually the highlight of the new Pro phones. The Pros get the biggest upgrade ever in megapixels this year for the ultra-wide camera, at the 48 megapixels we got on the iPhone 14 Pro 2 years ago in the main camera. Speaking of the main camera, Apple is also bringing the Fusion camera to the iPhone 16 Pro, along with the camera control. With the new 48 megapixel ultra wide, it means that action mode is way higher in resolution for video. Also, for the first time ever, the iPhone is getting 4K at 120 frames per second, just like the Galaxy S24 Ultra got this year. But along with that, it also gets Dolby Vision at this frame rate, which is great. This time, you can edit the frame rate even after the video or slow-mo has been captured, which I think is great. Just like the iPhone 16, the Pro models are also getting the brand new camera control, which can be used to control the camera and identify objects quickly. Now, the cameras can focus on the subject the whole time, even if you're moving the phone. Oh yeah, also the iPhone 16 Pro is getting that 5x telephoto that the Pro Max got last year. Now, you will notice Apple spends a big chunk of their time talking about Apple Intelligence, which I mean, they have to, right? This is what they are saying is the best part of these new iPhones. But what if I told you that these iPhones are only shipping with iOS 18, as in iOS 18.0? Of course, we will start seeing the new Siri and writing tools and all that stuff in the iOS 18.1 update, and more features will roll out after that. But it is pretty disappointing because you are paying 800, 900, $1,000 for a phone that doesn't even have the best and newest features, aka the reason you probably upgraded this year for. This basically means that the new 16s are basically a spec bump, like every year, until we get those newer and newer iOS 18 updates. The new iPhone 16 Pro starts at $999 like it did last year. We are very fortunate as some rumors were pointing towards a starting point of $1,099. Okay, so how should we summarize? We got the new Apple Watch Ultra 2 with a black titanium color, a new Series 10 with sleep apnea detection, along with the thinnest and largest screen design ever, new AirPods 4 with a new design and ANC, new AirPods Pro 2 with hearing health features, new AirPods Max with USB Type-C, the iPhone 16 with the action button, Apple Intelligence and the camera control, and the iPhone 16 Pro with the biggest ever screens on an iPhone, quad speakers, a 48 megapixel ultra wide, 4K at 120 FPS, and so much more. So yeah, that's basically it. Tell me what you guys think about the new Apple products in the comment section below. Alex Han, Alex Blaine, signing out.